Hi and welcome. If you're a regular on my channel, you'll recognize this. It's the new cover for my outdoor worm bag. It's just a piece of plywood, and in the past I was using this piece of wood right here to cover up with, but I figured I would try to give the system a little bit more coverage, because for a while I was starting to notice how something might have been coming in here, or some sort of creatures might have been coming up here, because I was starting to notice a lot of debris scattered across the top here, maybe some peanut shells or whatever. So I don't know if it's birds or whatever it was, but something did seem like it was coming up and trying to make a meal out of what's in this container. So I just noticed this little worm here was trying to crawl up the side of the bag for whatever reason. I don't know why. It didn't look too healthy, but it's still moving, so I'm going to put it back down into the material within the system. And let's continue removing the coverings here. So now you know why the wood coverings were there. The second wood covering that was down low was really more of a paperweight to hold this plastic down. And the plastic's job, as you might expect, was to hold moisture down within the system to prevent excess evaporation and try to keep the moisture level down here within the bin nice and damp, nice and comfortable for the worms. And it seems like it does a pretty good job, because every time I remove the coverings, it does seem like I can distinctly tell the difference between the material that's got more exposure to the air out here, which seems a little drier, versus what's right beneath the plastic covering, where there seems to be a little bit more dampness. So I'm in here after about a week since the last check-in, and just trying to remember now what kind of stuff I had put in here last time. I think it was a number of large chunks of cabbage, and it was stuff that I think was cooked in advance. It's stuff that my mom contributed to my vermicomposting efforts. So I'm curious to see how that stuff is coming along, and I guess as we make our way in, we'll find more and more of the stuff that's in here, and we'll be once again reminded of what's in here. So now this thing right here on top, I'm not 100% certain, but it does look like a wow, this is the seed out of a mango, and for whatever reason these things are really popular. The thing that makes, I don't know, the thing that makes these interesting to me is the way all the fibers start to unravel as the material starts to break down. And I wonder what it is about this that interests the worms so much. Perhaps it is that nice fine material. Perhaps it is that fibrous material that they like so much. Now this one feels like it's fairly intact. If I'm not mistaken, I believe there was another mango seed that might have been positioned nearby. It was one that I think has been in the bin for quite a bit longer. And if we do encounter it, we'll probably see that it's a great deal further along in the breakdown process. So I kind of probed my finger down deep, and I believe that that's what I've located here. It doesn't seem to be quite as large as the first one that we examined. It looks like it's a little bit smaller, but I'm fairly certain it too is a mango seed. The interest in it seems to come and go. The first time I bumped into it a couple weeks ago, it seemed like the worms were all over it and trying to get inside. And it seems like, I don't know, I think if memory serves me correctly, the last time I bumped into it, it seemed like there was very little interest in it at all. But it does seem like the interest has returned, so there's a whole bunch more worms in there now. So the other things that you'll recognize here are cherry tomatoes. Had a whole bunch of them that went bad, so they ended up becoming food for this outdoor system as well, not too long ago. That was actually 2 feedings ago. The most recent feeding, I believe, might have been a lot of these potato peels. Sometimes I don't remember exactly what I fed the last time I was in this system. Oh, wow. What is this? Ah, yeah, okay. It's starting to come back to me. Avocado. Definitely a popular item. I'm surprised that it's not been depleted yet. This also goes back a couple feedings. And this was actually why I was so interested in checking in here again last time I was in here. I was interested to see how this stuff is coming along. Considering how tough an avocado shell is when it's still fresh, the shell of this one seems like it's fairly heavily broken down. And I think just like the 2 mango seeds, I think there's also maybe 2 avocados in here as well. Once again, my recollection of exactly what was done in here in the past is a little sketchy. Now here's something we haven't seen in a while. This is another one of those oddball things that is sort of a test item, but this is the cork. This cork has been going from system to system to system. Somehow it ended up out here in this system, and it just doesn't look like it's really going anywhere. Actually, that's not entirely accurate. I think if I were to give it a nice hard squeeze, it might actually chip away a little bit more readily than a typical piece of cork would. But we're just going to leave it be, and we'll see what nature does in terms of breaking it down over time rather than me shredding it by hand. So we're seeing various previous feedings and various different stages of decomposition. And it is a little bit dim out here. I wonder if the camera's going to be able to pick up what's down in this hole, because it is sort of dark. Hopefully it's not too dark that we can't see what's happening. The nice thing in this system is that no matter where you look, you're always going to see lots and lots of worms. No matter where you look, it's kind of cool. I've actually been thinking about tapping into the worm population that lives in this system, because it's I don't know, I think it's true, but I'm not 100% certain, but I'm pretty certain that the worms that make up the population of this system are red wigglers. They're worms that I snatched out of, is this the cork again? Maybe it slipped back down into the hole. Whatever, doesn't matter. I'm fairly certain that the worms that make up this population are red wigglers. And they're worms that I recruited out of my compost barrel, which is right over here next to this system. And it's just a garbage pail that I put all my kitchen scraps into, and trimmings from my garden, or weeds when I pull weeds and stuff like that. So I've always got stuff going into that outdoor compost barrel, and I just let nature take its course. Whatever ends up in there ends up in there. And the one thing that ends up in there on its own all the time is tons and tons of worms. And at this point, I think they're just breeding in there, so I think it's just generations of worms that have been living in that compost barrel of mine. And once in a while I just go in there and pull some out. So boy, oh boy, is it dark in there. Why don't we plop in some light colored material? And it's some light colored material that I just pulled out of my leaf collection bag from my previous autumn leaf collection about 6 months ago. And it's a little bit lighter color material, so we'll just drop some of that right in there. I think one of my viewers commented on one of my last videos about this system, about how there appeared to be a little bit of a shortage of bedding type materials in here, and I definitely agree. If you look around, almost everything that you see in here is either some food item that I've probably put in here, which is not yet broken down, or vermicompost. I'm having a hard time grabbing this little guy. This would be the larva. This is the larva of a black soldier fly. And every year the black soldier flies also realize that if they lay their eggs in this system, their larva is going to have a nice generous amount of food to tap into. So I consider them as welcome guests. But if I were to try to, for example, take worms out of here to populate an indoor bin of mine, I don't think I would want to have the larva of the flying insect in my house. So that's the only thing that kind of deters me from wanting to come in here and recruit worms for an indoor worm bin. But it does seem like it might still be early enough in the season that the black soldier flies are not quite active yet. So I might actually do that before it gets too late to do so. This is my collection of pulverized eggshell. It also seemed to me like, besides not putting any bedding in here for a while, It also seemed to me like I haven't placed any grit into this system for a while. So I figured I would try to make up for that this time. Another thing that piles up in my house is kitchen scraps such as used coffee, as well as a little bit more supplemental bedding in the form of the filter itself that the coffee was brewed with. So this is definitely a nice boost to the bedding in this system. And the food that they're getting is stuff that I'm let's see, what is it? Yeah, it's stuff that I got from my mom yesterday. She had a bunch of leftover spoiled green beans laying around that she had frozen for me, but I left it out to let it thaw. And then we had salad at her place last night as an appetizer for the pizza dinner that we had. The whole family was over. So the salad bits from that are in here as well. And I'm going to plop in the entire amount because I'm pretty certain that the worms in here can handle it. I think they're going to have no problem putting a pretty good dent into this feeding here. Stuff like the salad, these leaves, these sort of things usually go quite quickly. There's not much to them. Even these butts of the head of lettuce go pretty quickly. I think the green beans too. I think there's a pretty good amount of kind of natural sugar content to green beans. So I got a feeling that the worms are going to enjoy that too. So before we cover up here, I think I'm going to plop in even a little bit more leafy material as bedding, just for good measure. And I got a feeling that the worms are really going to like this. I got a feeling next time we come in here, this feeding area is going to be mobbed with worms. But then again, I say that every time I put stuff in here. So I guess only time will really tell. So I'm going to start returning these 2 mango seeds. There was 1 avocado, but I thought there was another one over here somewhere too, right? These 2 avocados. These are bits of food that have been in here for a while and starting to get pretty heavily broken down. And they probably won't last much longer because there are lots and lots of worms in the system. That's one thing that's for certain. So I think that they do quite well with getting rid of foods. And if I were to take some of the worms out of the system in order to create a new red wiggler bin down in my wormery, I think that there would still be plenty remaining in here to continue working and reproducing and making sure that I can continue to use this as an active outdoor system too. So even though I'm not doing it today, I do believe that at some point in the near future I probably will be turning to this system to try to recruit some worms for my wormery inside, just so I can get some red wigglers in there going again, since I did recently lose all my red wigglers inside. But that's another story for another day. Or you can just go back through my videos on my channel and see what happened. But I'm not going to get into it here. That's really all I wanted to do today. So I'm going to start putting things back together. I don't know. I'd love to hear, you know, from people about what they think about this system. Is it on the right track? Is it being managed in a way that you think is satisfactory? Most people seem to like the way this system is run and the way it looks every time we check in. And my only hope is that since it is kind of a dark and dingy day, very great amount of cloud cover and a sort of a deficiency of natural light, hopefully it doesn't adversely affect the footage. Hopefully it just doesn't end up a big black blob in the middle of the video. But we'll see when we get it into the computer to start editing it. Alright everyone, that's it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, please remember to leave me a thumbs up. That's always really appreciated. If you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to my channel too. That's really appreciated as well. Alright everyone, have a great day. Bye now.